Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Lehr with me, your host, Imperial Dane, the only trusted source of instruction you got here on Companies 2, with a bit of a video here on MG42's usage, how to optimize it and get the most out of it. The trick is to always keep your machine gun roaming to some degree, always not quite mobile, but never, of course, quite static either. Like, I'll say one of the more common mistakes we see with the MG42's usage is they will just root it in one spot and then never, ever move it again, or at least only move it when they're really forced to. Thing is, that's not particularly efficient. Obviously, again, constant maneuvering the MG42 can be a bit of a pain in the ass, but to really get the most of it, you want to be used to actively support your troops to cover up potential flanks, and always just put pressure on your opponent. An MG42 that just covers one spot all the time, it's pretty much almost a dead MG42. I mean, it's not really achieving much there. And you might as well just build a bunker, which is going to be hard for the opponent to just root out anyways. Whereas an MG42, you can sort of be more about. It's actually a really big threat to your opponent a lot of the time, in part because they then never quite know where it is. And the best MG42 is the one where your opponent never quite knows where it is. It's kind of like, you know, a good, you know, monster in a horror movie. Like, you know, they never quite know where it is. Is it behind that curtain? Is it behind that door? Is it in the basement? Who knows? Like, that sort of certain uncertainty and fear that sort of arises from that is sort of what you really also want to be exploring with the MG42. Like, obviously, another key element is, of course, never keep the MG42 on its own either entirely. You always want units within reach to, like, back up the MG42. If it comes down to, like, you know, things go wrong, boom, they can sort of be there to support. Like, even, like, say, you know, move down here in the front, there's still sort of the Grenadier squad over there, by the way. They can always move in to support my MG42, but nonetheless, a key element is always keep the MG42 moving, like, you know, sort of hidden there. Even like you want to cover one specific area, like say, you know, you want to cover this point, you don't just keep it there forever. You'll from time to time shift it from another position to another, obviously making sure other troops are nearby in case it gets spotted while repositioning. But that way, your opponent again never quite knows where the MG42 is, how to deal with it, how to react to it, and so on. That makes things a lot more difficult for them to sort of again deal with. And that is really, like, you know, the core component you really like want to look into when it comes to like maximizing your MG42 usage. It is uncertainty, it is fear. That's, like, you know, in that regard, like the core components. And of course, this can to an extent also apply to all other machine guns, but you know, it's just the Wehrmacht. I just feel like the MG42 is so much more critical to the entire faction and how it works that I really just want to emphasize it here. But again, a lot of this can be brought along to like other factions to a large degree, honestly. But yeah, fear, uncertainty, and just a roaming MG42, which your opponent never truly knows where it is like, you know, really critical for you. That way, again, it also can support your troops, and that also brings another reasons why it's good to have a machine gun supporting your troops. It also helps, you know, stem manpower bleed, because again, units as suppressed doesn't hurt your troops as much, allows you to win engagement much more cleanly without suffering many casualties. And that's another reason why it is important to use MG42 to actively support your troops, because it means your infantry suffers less. And that is actually a really big deal, which I think also gets ignored. And again, also why it gets a bit silly. You see people just spam grenadiers and that's it. They're just not fighting very efficiently, because again, the MG42 ensures the grenadiers won't suffer as badly, meaning they don't have to reinforce as much. And if they don't have to reinforce as much, they can spend manpower on other things more effectively. So there's a good reason to also, you know, use your MG42 more actively there. I mean, again, it's not just because it's going to be very frustrating and annoying for your opponent, and it will be, but it's also because it will ensure you preserve your manpower much better, fighting that way much more efficiently against your opponents. So in that regard, using MG42 much more flexibly will require you to put in a bit more effort. That's the downside to it effectively. I mean, again, compared with, for example, some of the Allied machine guns like the 50 caliber, which, I mean, again, somehow it's just much more swifter than the MG42. But again, like, if you use the MG42, you know, actively, and again, it will require some effort, you will overall perform better, I feel. And again, you'll have the psychological edge to your opponent, because again, they're trying to deal with an MG42 they never truly know where it is, and again, that's going to drive them nuts. But also, very critically, you're going to be fighting in a manner which is much more efficient and ensure you don't get bled out so much. Other critical elements, of course, we'll get into in a bit as we switch over to the next scene. Now here we have another example. This is my opponent. I was playing a Soviet a bit just as we get a hang of the 1 versus 1 faction. But also just to highlight, you know, how it can play out around it, as this to my viewers. But basically here you sort of get the example of the less efficient MG42. I mean, you might notice again, it's sort of, you know, again, it's on the flank, but compared with the previous example where there's like, you know, an edge of the map where, like, your opponent can't easily move about, meaning there's like they have to go either through the machine gun or just an infantry squad. In this case, there's less of that. There's a much bigger sort of exposed flank here, in particular with the Soviets, is something you really want to be careful about. And right here, just because, again, he kept his machine gun right there all the time, I effectively much more easily knew where the MG42 was all the time and could easily move in and counter it. So again, in this regard, you know, there really is a good reason, like ensuring your opponent never quite knows where the MG42 is, because really as a solo player, what a lot of my victories just basically boils down to figuring out where my opponent's machine gun is, figuring out that, okay, they're not using that machine gun very well, and then just hard countering it by immediately destroying it with a Molotov or whatever, and then stealing it and turning against the opponent, of course, then making better use of the MG42 than my opponent. So, again, like, critical MG42 usage is, again, very critical. Like, it really it's important that you fight with the MG42 efficiently and wisely, otherwise it will rather backfire on you. As you again might notice, again, compared with my opponent, I'm using the MG42 much more actively. Of course, there's a surge with a 6-man machine gun crew. Obviously, I can do this a lot more freely, and of course, there's always the challenge of the Wehrmacht. But again, the key nonetheless is, you know, use the MG42 actively, use it aggressively, use it to support your troops as much as possible. If you really want to lock down an area, either get another machine gun, really, so have one that can always actively support your troops, or, you know, get a bunker. And of course, that's not to say you can't stuff in a building, but again, the building should not be like, you know, the final station. It is not the terminus of this. It's just, you know, one spot it can go in to, like, you know, fight better briefly, but then you send it away to fight elsewhere down the road. Again, that's, you know, very critical to keep in mind. Otherwise, again, the MG42 is basically doing bugger all, and we really don't want a machine gun to do bugger all. That's what your opponent wants you to do with it. So again, active machine gun usage frustrates your opponent, and what you want to do is frustrate your opponent, particularly against less experienced opponents. A machine gun they cannot deal with can actually become a very big issue for them, and it can actually cause them to commit mistakes as they suddenly become more and more obsessed with the MG42 and simply cannot comprehend it, because again, most Wehrmacht players don't do this, which again is also why I'm recommending it. But really, as a guy who's also been playing a lot of Soviets, and again, it's not necessarily, you know, something those who hate me want to actually acknowledge. I mean, I know the Wehrmacht's weaknesses, and one of the primary weaknesses is most players tend to handle the MG42s like a complete pair of patzes. And so it's sort of also come to another lesson of the MG42. Of course, this is only specific for the MG42, but it's knowing to use the incendiary armor-piercing rounds a lot. Like, again, the incendiary armor-piercing rounds is actually quite a crucial element there. It allows you to counter light vehicles, obviously, very hard. But also just the impact it has on enemy infantry is actually really good in a lot of cases. And then well-timed incendiary armor-piercing rounds burst there can absolutely demolish your opponent. So right here, for example, again, half-track went down in a matter of seconds. And the Panzer themselves are not having an easy time either. And there you go, immediately gets a kill. Eventually 2 on the MG42. Obviously, you'll probably get that healed up, but that's another story for another time. Again, in the end, though, suddenly using the MG42 is much better than my opponent. It's also giving me another tactical edge in that department. So again, good MG42 usage of the Wehrmacht is critical, and it has a lot of benefits to you. Again, psychologically on the opponent, it's going to hurt. Just on the battlefield, it's going to hurt. But also just for you, there's also the benefit. It sort of, you know, allows you to fight more efficiently by ensuring you don't bleed out so badly. So there's a lot of good reasons as a Wehrmacht player to use the MG42 and use it well. So hopefully after watching this little instructional video, you will also see the light of this and improve upon your, hopefully, MG42 player, then become a better Wehrmacht player. Or again, overall better machine gun using player. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe and share, press the bell button, and if you like what I do, you can also donate, pledge the Patreon. Every donation, every pledge allows me to keep doing these videos day after day, so please do consider. This is Imperial signing off. I'll be back another time with another instructional video for all to enjoy and consume. Cheers.